I want to start by saying that Kel'Thuzad is a high risk, not very high reward hero. He can be extremely oppressive to play against, and so when he's played well, we all know how awful it is to play against him. But if you consider the amount of times that he's not played well, you realize he can be a very difficult hero if you're playing on high ping. It can be very hard. So Kel'Thuzad alone, I don't normally recommend him over other mages because it's feast or famine, and it's kind of like playing Butcher. Either you look really good or you look really bad. It can be very difficult to play Kel'Thuzad as a whole, but we're going to talk about some of the ways to maximize Kel'Thuzad so he's a little easier to play, and we'll get into that. So there is one thing I want to go over, because after 15 Blight, you get Glacial Spike ability. Before I ever get into the talents, which are very key to playing Kel'Thuzad, there's one thing from playing at high ranks versus playing at low ranks. The number one problem that you see with low rank Kel'Thuzads is putting a spike down, attaching your chain to the spike, and then searching for somebody to hit with. That is normally considered bad, and you should only do that in rare circumstances. Your main goal is to get somebody first, then put your spike down and combo them in. If you're trying to combo off a spike, it's because you're trying to get somebody in a retreat point, and that's the only way you can get them. Other than that, you shouldn't be trying that. It's the number one mistake of all Kel'Thuzad players, that they put the spike down, they hit E on the spike. That spike's not moving. That thing's going to always be stationary, whether you put it first or second, which 95% of the time, you should put it second. That's the number one problem that most people have with Kel'Thuzad, is that they put the spike out and then they no longer have a combo point. And that spike is not on a very short cooldown. Don't do that. That's your number one don't do big no-no. Okay, so when it comes to Kel'Thuzad, it's all about your combos, and depending on your cast priority, right? You want to E, you want to put your spike down, you want to W in between it, and then you want to Q behind it, because that means they're rooted and they're taking damage from your Q. And that's how we do it. But there are some things that can help you out overall. At number one, your talent is Frost Nova, deals 75% more damage, okay, to enemies in the center. So that means more burst damage to people that are in the middle. The reduce armor thing is nice. I actually don't mind this talent, but you're also, after you get 30 Blight, you get an extra 1/2 second on that root, which means more ticks, another tick or two from your Q, which can also help a lot as well. So you get the extra root duration, so you go from 1 second to 1.5 seconds, making people more of a priority. I do think that armor reduction is good and can be good in certain situations, because they're always going to help. But Blighted Frost, I've talked to the Kel'Thuzad one trick that plays Kel'Thuzad all the time. He loves Blighted Frost. I like Blighted Frost, and this is the one that you go with. You get the bonus center damage, which means more single target burst damage, and you're also getting that extra 1/2 second root. This means that you can be self-dependent on what you are. Barb Chains, I think, is not that far off. Q build, there is something to be said about Q build for all of you people that love Q build and going into Q and then going into the Damned Return at 20. There is a spot for that and getting extra Q damage on the tick, but we're talking about playing Kel'Thuzad to be really oppressive and kill people. Level 4, all of these have a place, okay? So if I anticipate having a Samuro and Illidan, people that like to dive squishies that have physical damage, I'm going to go Armor of the Archlich. So this gives me 50 physical armor for 4 seconds, and it also slows people that are near me. Now, there is some real cheeky plays that you can play with around this, to where if you know you've got a diving team, you can use this, you can slow them. Now they're slowed for 35%, meaning it's easier to land chains. Phylactery can be really good as well to get this, so you can also heal. You heal for 10% of the spell damage dealt while it's charged, meaning that once you get this, you have a forgiveness factor and it's harder to kill you. So there is a good way to play around this. Strip shields is really if you're playing against a Zarya or something like that, to where you're going to get the shields down. Outside of that, I'm not a big fan of this. I think Phylactery and Armor of the Archlich are pretty much the things you want to go with. Strip shields, it's obvious if the enemy team has shields, so you can pick and choose whether you want to go against this. But I think between Phylactery and Armor of the Archlich, all of these are really good. Level 7. Now, here's where you can become your own setup combo machine. Now, the biggest thing that I always talk about in all of my mage videos is how little people auto-attack and how much damage you're missing as a result. You should be auto-attacking. Now, there isn't really too much of an indicator other than the bottom left of your screen underneath your health, but Chilling Touch is how you can combo people and make their lives miserable. So every 8 seconds, you get a slow onto your auto-attack. And so you can hold on to this once it's charged and ready to go. So it deals spell damage instead of physical damage, and it slows by 30%. It's like trying to mount somebody mounted versus somebody unmounted, except they're dismounted and you're slowing them, right? You don't want to try and chain people that are mounted. That's really hard because they're fast. But slowing them by 30% is fantastic. This is how you can easily set up. I walk up to somebody, I auto attack them, I stick that chain on them, put my glacial spike down, and then I combo them. That's how it works. So I'm going to W, or I'm going to E, I'm going to spike down, I'm going to W, E, back to that spike, to that root area, and then if I've got my R, I'm going to go that as well. This is the ability that allows you to set up your own combos. Yes, it's nice having a tank. Like if I have a Johanna, I'm waiting to let Johanna to condemn and then use punish on everybody because that they're in an area and they're slowed. So all of these things work out really well from a Kel'Thuzad's perspective, is that if I have a tank with CC, most notably a Johanna, who is not as popular as of this video because of her recent nerfs, but an ETC, all of these heroes that I know are going to be stationary or very slowed, Kel'Thuzad should be waiting on that. If not, level 7 at least allows you to generate your own slow, meaning that if somebody walks up to you, you auto attack them, and then all of a sudden that E is a lot easier to land. It doesn't matter how much pressure they put on you because you're yanking them the other way or wherever you want and you're doing some work, right? So Chilling Touch is very good as a result. This is how you can self-combo without the need of other people. It's still very good as a mage and definitely a Kel'Thuzad. Garrosh throws somebody in, boom, chain, stun, slow, whatever they're at. Johanna, condemn, punish, boom, slow, easy chains. ETC slides, hopefully doesn't W, easy chain. All of these heroes you should be waiting. Blaze puts down oil, Stitches hits W. Those are the targets you should be looking to hit. Easier to stack, much more reliable to hit your chains, and it's much easier, and level 7 gives you the ability to set up your own combos. Now, when it comes to single target blow up, Shadow Fissure is the way to go. A lot of people take note of the damage on this, on how little it is, but don't forget that when you finish your quest, you get 75% spell power, meaning that this does a lot more damage. So this is how you combo somebody, you one-shot somebody. You've got the extra root time at level 1, so you get a little bit of forgiveness factor to make sure that they stay there. There's a lot of things you can do around that. Frost Blast, I actually don't think is that bad. It can be good. It can actually be really good at certain points. It's on a short cooldown. It is a point-and-click heroic, and you can root somebody and basically do a bunch of stuff to them after that. It's just that it takes a long time. The travel time is pretty slow, and most of the time you're playing Kel'Thuzad, you're expected to do some type of carrying to a degree. If I have a lot of people and I'm complimenting my team, I think Frost Blast is good. Shadow Fissure does give me the ability to one-shot combo somebody and make their life miserable. I get a reset on this if it hits an enemy hero, meaning I can cast it again 1.5 seconds later. Good change made within the last year. But overall, Shadow Fissure is where I want. It's comboing into everything that I'm trying to do. It's making use of me guaranteeing my combos, me getting extra root time and all that stuff. And we'll talk about even more damage here in a second. At level 13, there's not a lot that I think you're going to find other than the chain ones. Now, getting the 60% slow after you chain somebody is really good. So I can combo from a person onto a spike. I can combo from a person onto a person and root them the same way. Having a 60% slow after that wears off, or whether I hit that root on one or not, after I get that, after it expires, the enemy is also slowed for 60%. Yes, if I'm rooting them, it doesn't really matter as much, but if I'm rooting them, I'm probably either really punishing them or killing them. Getting the slow after the pull means that I can pull them onto each other, and so let's say I'm a little late on the W, or they're trying to get away, and I don't have my W, or something's a little off. This allows me to have more CC and more control over the enemy team. I do think Chain Link isn't too bad. Pulling a hero reduces the cooldown by 5 seconds and refunds its mana cost. Not normally going to have too many mana issues as Kel'Thuzad, but still, having a 5-second cooldown means that I can E somebody, maybe I miss, or maybe they get out of range and I can't put my spike down and combo them. I'll have another opportunity again a few seconds later because this is only a 10-second cooldown, so it's 50% cooldown reduction. A lot of that does go into play where I think the slow is going to be better most of the time because it gives you more for your team. It gives you more forgiveness factor. And so if you don't land certain things, it's going to make it easier to land when they have a 60% slow so they can't walk out of those things that you're trying to root onto them. Level 16. This is where I think a lot of people start to veer in different directions in terms of what they like to go because it pairs with the 16. And we all know that Q build is fairly viable. It's just it doesn't do what Kel'Thuzad's design kind of implies, right? But getting Hungry and Cold is really good. Enemies that are rooted take an additional 55 damage each time they are damaged by Kel'Thuzad. When you consider how fast your Q does damage, so every 0.5 seconds, that's another tick, which means another tick of my Q and another tick of damage onto Hungry and Cold. Power of Ice Crown can also be good. Stunning, rooting, or slowing a hero grants 6% spell power for 10 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. A little harder to pull off, but can in theory work. Hungry and Cold gives me that burst damage, so if I'm auto attacking, I E, I combo, I W, I R, I Q, all of that goes in there. They're taking that extra tick of damage, which means an extra tick of my Q, 75% spell power, by the way, so extra damage there, plus the extra 55 damage that I'm getting per tick on that Q. So every time that they're rooted, I get that extra half-second root. It means more single target damage. It pairs well with my level 1. It pairs very well with my Q, and the spell power overall is going to be very beneficial as a whole. I do think all of these are good. You could say that about a lot of Kel'Thuzad talents, but in terms of the way that most Kel'Thuzad players are going to be playing it, you can improvise in certain areas. But if I want to play Kel'Thuzad and maximize his design and his kit, this is how all those people are killing you, all those big damage Kel'Thuzads that you've seen. Now, when it comes to level 20, I do think the Damned Return is probably the best talent here. Activate to create a shade of Naxxramas that lasts 15 seconds and mimics your cast of Death and Decay. So now I can put this down, combo in that exact same area. This has a 100% uptime, so there's really no downside to this. I just cast this, maybe somebody goes out of range, and then it's a little awkward. But I cast this. It's cooldown of 15 seconds, and it lasts for 15 seconds. So it's pretty easy to see that the math adds up to where I have 100% uptime. Every time I'm doing damage, if this is also ticking in that damage department with the 116 combo that I have, and I'm comboing them, guess what? That's more ticks of damage, more everything that I'm getting from the value of this. So there's a lot of things to like about this. It's really easy to siege up in the late game. So sieging late game now becomes pretty powerful. And this is one of the reasons why a lot of people like the Q build, because you're going to get more value overall with your level 20. But as Kel'Thuzad, you're really going to work around a lot of that. The other level 20 talents are actually pretty decent. Activate to dash forward, dealing a small amount of damage, and this can be good for an escape. Sadly, this is a 4-minute cooldown, but takedowns reset the cooldown of this, so you can use this to kill somebody, or if you get a kill late game. The odds of you getting a kill late game, let's say you need to get the heck out of dodge, you dash away from somebody instead of into somebody, you get out of there. You could conceivably use this aggressively, but getting a kill is going to reset this. If not, it's a weird 4-minute level 20 talent. Level 20 also, Might of the Scourge. If a hero is hit by Shadow Fissure, a second one is cast below them 1 second later. The second cast will not duplicate itself. So this isn't terrible in certain maps. This means I'm on choke points or control points where I know that if I can get that reset, it's going to zone out an area and cause a lot of chaos. If I'm hitting somebody and another one's free, that means I have another free cast from my level 10 base version of this. This does have a place in very rare circumstances. It's never really going to be a bad talent, so to speak, because if you hit your R, then this is going to get value no matter what, or at least zone people out. And if I went to slow at 16, well, it might be a little bit easier to stay on to people. Regardless, the Damned Return is actually really good because you get that bonus damage, sieging up with Q, holding an area with your Q. That's more than okay to do. I think Chromie's clones to where you're casting out that little bit different range, a little bit different damage. But overall, this is an incredibly strong ability here at level 20, thus making it so that as Kel'Thuzad, I'm using my E. I'm trying to get the early stacks. I'm Eing them. I'm chaining them to their allies. I'm getting the roots in there. Post level 4 or post level 7, I'm getting the auto attack so I can set up my own combo. But I cannot stress this enough. Follow your tank CC. If you have somebody that can give you point hold area stuns and chains, why would you not take it? Don't make the game harder for yourself by trying to raw chain everybody. Sure as heck, don't try and raw chain somebody that's mounted. Yeah, you'll get lucky 1 out of every 20 tries, but why not try and get it 1 out of every 2 or 3 because you're following up somebody that's tanking for you, that has people in one spot that already have them slowed. Try and benefit from those, but once you get to level 7, pretend you're the ranged. You're auto attacking anyways because you're a mage, right? And so now you can save this. You can sit on this auto attack and be like, okay, 8 seconds. If not, I just use this to maybe do a camp, maybe clear some minions, whatever. But for that purpose, I can use this. I can sit on that auto attack, wait till somebody walks up, auto attack them, and now I can combo them off of my own 30% slow. That's how you self-combo as Kel'Thuzad. And again, I will repeat this. If you are just of the mindset that I put my spike down, I chain to my spike, and then I just put out a signal and I go for those people, you're doing it wrong unless that is the only way you can chain them at the time. You chain first. Once you confirm that chain, you spike, you combo, you W, you R, you E, or your Q in the middle of all that. And that's how the combo works as Kel'Thuzad. So for Kel'Thuzad, you should go out of your way. Make sure that you're helping for wave clear because your Q is really good for minions. Your W, you should try to save your E and your W for your stacks. Use your Q primarily for wave clear. If needed, you can use your W for wave clear if you're dealing with a camp, something pushing against you. And as far as Kel'Thuzad maps go, Kel'Thuzad maps can be very tricky because maps that seem in theory good might not necessarily be great. For Axis Holdout, you know that you will always have people standing in front of you. Cursed Hollow, does the enemy team composition say that they want to fight me or that they're going to play more of a macro game? If they're playing more of a macro game, I might not hit those spikes for my 30 blight till much later in the game, meaning that my team might already be super far behind, and then we got to play some serious catch up. Volskaya, always a tricky one for stacks, right? In theory, I'm fighting on a point, and that first fight could last a long time. But between those fights, you're not normally stacking, and it might not be as good. I think it's kind of a let's assess the situation and hope that the enemy team has a lot of heroes that we can fight with for a long time. If my team has one tank and not a lot of CC, good luck, because they'll run past that, and Kel'Thuzad has a hard time controlling people unless you can really get a hold of the other team's front line. So a lot of things to consider with Kel'Thuzad. Overall, I think he can be strong. I don't want to endorse a Kel'Thuzad versus, say, playing any other mage in the game that's going to be far more reliable, that you know you don't have to get 30 stacks to get 75 spell power, which, oh, by the way, is scaling is very different than other heroes. So even late game, it tapers off big time. So there's some weird things with Kel'Thuzad that can make him good, that can make him bad. And I think that overall, you want to just chill with Kel'Thuzad. You want to be patient. You want to follow up CC. You want to get the level 7 so that you can set up your own combos. I just have a hard time endorsing Kel'Thuzads. You have to basically one-trick a Kel'Thuzad to even be kind of decent at Kel'Thuzad. Yes, you're going to have your big shining moments where it's like every now and again, I'm going to come out here and I'm just going to destroy everybody. But overall, it can be very difficult to get the consistency factor from a Kel'Thuzad, which is why he's listed as hard, because consistency in mages, they already don't go hand in hand. They're even more difficult when you are contingent on actually landing your skill shots in the early to mid part of your game to even be relatively decent. If you don't complete it early and snowball early, your scaling will catch up to you, and your window is going to be from like level 11 to like level 16 or 18, and that might not be a big enough window for you to play catch up in. So keep that in mind when you're playing Kel'Thuzad, that there are some better options. But if you want to play Kel'Thuzad, be patient, follow your tank CC, Step 2, follow your tank CC. Step 3, follow your tank CC. Okay? Do that. You'll have a little bit of success and hopefully do well